Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new show here on the Board YouTube channel. This is the NBA content division of the Hammer Betting Network, and we brought back Evan Kirk once again. He's going to be here every Thursday with myself, Jacob Gramegna, at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're just going to go through the biggest stories and stuff we want to talk about around the NBA, and if there's any way we can add a betting twist or talk about some best bets, we will be doing so as well. This is your third time now on the channel here. First time with this brand new show. How are you feeling ahead of this show, and what do you think the viewers can expect from it?
For sure. I'm excited. I think viewers can expect kind of an analytical look, betting focused look on the NBA. Excited to get the season started. Last night was an interesting night, and just excited to get going.
Yeah, me as well. I think that there's going to be some great stuff that comes out of this one. And as I said, when you were on the Thursday morning show, actually, I talked about how having you on the show here is going to bring a bit of a different sort of opinion and look to betting, because we have obviously the weekday morning shows with Pips NBA, where he's a lot more matchup focused and analysis focused, where, like you said, you're much more mathematical and analytically focused. So what we have on the agenda for today for you guys, we're going to go through a bunch of the games from yesterday. Some of the ones in particular that we wanted to focus on were the Dallas Mavericks game against the San Antonio Spurs, the Orlando Magic and their win over the Houston Rockets. Also, what do I have here? No, it's just the Milwaukee Bucks as well that we wanted to discuss, as they have their season opener today against the Philadelphia 76ers. And we're going to end off this one by talking a little bit about some of the most polarizing young stars around the NBA. And I know Evan has a bit of a hot take coming later on that you guys may want to see. So first of all, let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks going into the season opener against the 76ers tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks and Boston Celtics around sportsbooks. I've seen mostly completely same odds on these two to come out of the Eastern Conference. I would love to see hear your thoughts on who the better team is out of these two and what's going to be the separation there, because sportsbooks seemingly cannot decide.
Yeah, I think early season, for sure, the Celtics are going to be priced better. I think we saw that last night compared to tonight. Bucks, I'm looking at the board right now, are hanging 6 with a few 6.5s out there. Boston, I think, was -4 in New York last night. I think the Celtics are deeper and probably the better team right now, but I still maintain that the Bucks probably are the highest upside team in the NBA. I think that Lillard and Giannis as a pick and roll combo is something we've never really seen before. I think you kind of think about best players to pair in the league, probably the top two, in terms of just the way they play together would be like Steph, Giannis, and Lillard obviously plays pretty similarly to Steph. So I just don't think we've really ever seen a pick and roll combo that's like this, Kobe, Shaq, but the game was just so different back then. Yeah. But at the same time, this team has a lot of question marks, and I think we're probably going to see that early, and there's going to be some growing pains.
What do you think those growing pains are going to look like? I remember when the Heatles first began, there were definitely some growing pains there. They weren't on fire out of the gate. I wouldn't compare this team to that in terms of a super team, but what do you think is going to be kind of the slow developing process here?
For sure. Well, first, I have a lot of questions about the coaching of this team. Already, Terry Stotts left, which was a bit of a weird story. Seems like he maybe wanted a bit more control than Griffin wanted to give. So I think there's been a lot of weirdness on the coaching front. He hasn't been very upfront with the media in terms of who's playing, why Middleton's not practicing. But the main question I have about coaching is there's a lot of emphasis on them increasing their aggressiveness on defense. If you've been following the Bucks the past 5 years under Bud, they love the sag back as low as you can go on the pick and roll, Brook Lopez around the rim, Giannis as kind of a secondary rim protector as well, and that worked to very good results. They were great defensively in the regular season every year. I think they were top 5 last year. They've always been good defensively in the playoffs as well. So I don't really see, especially with this new personnel of Lillard. Lillard's not getting around a screen. So I don't really see why they're trying to pump up the aggressiveness. And it looked a bit weird in the preseason as well. And then on offense, it takes a bit of time to get used to playing with each other. I thought the offense looked a bit weird in the preseason as well. I think they ran a lot of screens for each other off ball, which isn't really Lillard's forte. And then the depth is terrible on this team for a pretty old team that's going to rest a lot. Malik Beasley's starting. I like Malik Beasley, but he's not really a starter in the NBA. I think he got released last year, or he got signed for the minimum this season. Pat Connaughton's solid. Bobby Portis is okay. And behind that, it's really a disaster.
Yeah, I can see that level of concern there with the team. I think playoff-wise, these teams are extraordinarily well equipped, but where there may be a bit more of the issues is like, regular season, going for the long haul, 82 games, injury problems. Like both these teams are going to be extremely injury prone. Milwaukee Bucks, maybe even more so. That's where I'd kind of give the slight edge to Boston if I were to have to pick one. We spoke about it kind of as well this morning on Pick and Roll, myself and Pips. And we said like basically it's 55-45 Boston, but like it kind of go either way. But hey, if a team gets themselves in a really good position early on in the season, they can definitely make some strides in the playoffs and challenge either of these two teams. But I'm not sure that team will be the 76ers.
I don't know if that team exists in the East, honestly. Who really would, that team be to come out of the East? It's hard to
I
see.
don't know.
Definitely in the West, I think there are some Denver easily could win, Phoenix.
It would just have to be a team. Honestly, like when I go through like preseason with my own work, I do a tier list of teams and I have the contenders, dark horses, playoff teams, etc. This year I have no dark horses. It's just Boston, Milwaukee, 0 dark horses, then just the playoff teams. So I know I said it, but like, look, if injuries do hamper either of these teams, like I think it's a bad example to continue to point back to Miami of last season. That was such an outlier sort of situation. They got extraordinarily hot from 3, and nobody could extinguish that really until the finals against the Denver Nuggets. But if injury problems arise for both of these teams, if there are some complications there, we'll see. But look, I'm firmly thinking that's going to be an Eastern Conference final between these two guys. I'm not going to dispute that.
For sure. Last thing I'll say on them is I think it's hard to not have Boston as the favorite because I think they're pretty clearly better equipped to get home court advantage, and the teams are pretty close. So whichever team has home court's probably going to be favored. And then also Boston's just better equipped to deal with an injury. An injury to Giannis or Dame is curtains for the Bucks for sure.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. We have a comment here from Phoenix Plays saying the zombie heat because they never die no matter what. That's the team they challenge. We're not going to really talk about them. I'm so low on the Heat this season. I just like it's a team that was an 8 seed last year, was 5 minutes away from missing the playoffs and got worse. And like I said, it was an outlier with the shooting. But I did want to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers, the whole turmoil over there. Nick Nurse has no idea really what he's gotten himself into. Well, maybe he did with the James Harden, Joel Embiid situation. I don't know how to treat the Sixers. Like, do we assume Harden will be involved? Do we assume he won't be involved? But what's your outlook for them going into the season?
Yeah, I think it's pretty rough considering I don't really think I would have had them as a contender even with Harden. Harden's shortcomings in the playoffs are being pretty clear. But also, there's not really a trade out there for Harden. Even if they pull off, the best Clippers trade, Terrence Mann, a few unprotected first, like that's not really going to change their outlook. There's no one clear that they could trade those 2 unprotected firsts for. If they could have gone Drew Holiday, that would have been great, but that's obviously not happening. I think Maxi's really solid. I think this is a very big question mark year for him. Is he a point guard who can distribute and be a top enough level passer that he can really, run an offense? Or is he more of like a Tyler Hero type of player, a Jordan Poole type of player? I think he's really in that swing spot. I think he's the best out of, Poole, Hero. But is he that type of player, or is he like a run and offense, run pick and roll through him? He's finding the guys type of player. I think that's a big question mark for them. But then also the Joel question looms of, is he staying with all that's happening? With the past history of the NBA, I would definitely bet on him leaving, within the next 2 years. So they're in a bit of trouble for sure.
Agree on that. I like the points you're bringing up about Tyrese Maxey going to get a massive workload today. And in any sense, if James Harden's not involved, then Tyrese Maxey's going to have a massive role this season. I think it was beneficial to him that he did not sign his extension this summer. He was extension eligible, but was communicated that they're going to work on it next summer. I would be a bit surprised if Maxey doesn't play well enough to get a rookie max, either like maybe close to that. I'm not suggesting that he'll be worth that max contract, but usually when a player is trending upwards, the rookie max isn't like a crippling contract for teams to give out. They're a bit more free with that sort of deal. And again, I think Maxey's on track to earning that. Maybe the Sixers weren't quite convinced this summer, but especially with James Harden's unavailability here, I fully expect Maxey to kind of take off here. But a good point from yourself is that going to be scoring wise, or is that going to be leading the team from a distributing standpoint? So that's interesting.
For sure. Yeah, I think he's pretty clearly established himself as a crazy good shooter, which is a really like incredible story considering I think he came in at like 29% in his last year in college. So I think the scoring is there unless he really goes to a nuclear level. I just think the passing really is what's going to have to come through. But also maybe Harden not being there will help because he's going to have to really be that distributor. Quick aside, betting podcast, Maxey under half a steal, plus 150 or better. I'm on that. It's a good play for anyone watching.
Okay, something to take note of there with Maxey. Let's go.
Just reminded me now that we're talking about it.
Of course. So any betting stuff you have along the way, we are talking about Philly and the Bucks who are playing tonight. So anything along the way you have there, please feel free to chime in with some betting insight along the way. But in the title, in the thumbnail, want to talk about OKC. Forgot to mention them in the agenda earlier on, but the Thunder, they're kind of everyone's favorite underdog this season. Everyone's kind of like, okay, now is the time for this team to make the leap. But like, how good does this team look? How big is this leap? They made a good point in the management over there that they have never even been above 500 with this group of players. But start off the season very well, a 20-point win against the Chicago Bulls. How big of a threat do you treat this team in the Western Conference? Is it a case like it's a success to make the playoffs? Is this a team that can go to the second round? What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, definitely a higher variance team. If everything hits really well, maybe a threat to make the second round. That would be pretty surprising. I'm on this team's under total win, so I'm definitely below consensus. I'm not quite on the massive hype train. Also, last night, I wouldn't really read much into that win. They won by 20, but I think they were the highest EFG team of the night last night. Kaysen Wallace was 3 of 3. Ousmane Dieng, 3 of 5 from 3. All this, I think they're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. I think every starter was above 50% as well. Chet in the preseason was very interesting to the point where that raised my expectations on this team for sure. He might be, that guy. And if he is, I'm bullish on OKC's future. They're going to be incredible. I just think for this season, even you mentioned it, the management doesn't really look at this team as, we're pushing all in. They easily could have made a big trade this offseason. I think they still look at themselves as we're in development mode. I think they probably are still in development mode. I think they're gonna, 500 seems pretty fair, but I don't really see the path to them being, a top 10 offense or a top 10 defense. They're still pretty small. So I think they're good, really fun up and coming team, but probably not a real contender to even make the second round.
Yeah, that's where I would go. My only thing about OKC, I'm just very high on Shea, and he showed why again yesterday. He showed why FIBA's not everything, but he definitely showed why in the FIBA World Cup as well. Like if you get this team in a close game late, it's really, really difficult to eliminate the Shea factor. And the thing about Shea, it's everything. It's not just scoring. It's controlling the offense. It's not just offense, it's his ability as a defender as well. Like, you don't need to hide him. This is an elite player. This is one of the best players in the league, and he's only continuing to get better.
For sure. Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Shea is he's obviously unbelievable. I have him as a top 10 player in the league, but he performed as a top 5 player in the league last season. So unless he's really competing for the MVP, it's hard to see him being better this year than last year. So I think penciling him in as really, really good is fair, but I'm not sure where that improvement's going to come from unless he also could maybe take a bit of a step as a distributor. But it's hard to take a step up as from a top 5 player in the league.
Yeah, it's like sometimes like you're so good in your past that it kind of weighs on you in your future seasons. So I kind of understand what you're saying to a degree with that. But honestly, I think there is just another step in just I said he affects every facet of the game, but like you said, playmaking, but just complete control over games. Like the best players in the league, like just everything is running through them. They're the focal point in every facet. I believe he has that ability to get to. Not sure I'll go as far as say like he's got MVP in him, but certainly conversations where he'll be involved in down the line. And like it wouldn't necessarily be a shock if he were to snag one at some point in his career, which would just be remarkable. But OKC has to get a lot better for him to get to that level where he's in those MVP discussions. And with the draft picks, with the people in management, I think that they're on their way, but like you said, maybe just not quite there yet.
And he's doing it with limited shooting around him. Like he gets to the rim whenever he wants. You know, what happens if you took out Dort and Gideon, put in some 3-and-D guys? It could be crazy. Yeah, I would put him in he could be a non-Jokic MVP level. You know, he's not going to get to what Jokic has been doing because Jokic is completely insane. But, you know, if people are picking Tatum for MVP, if Tatum can win an MVP, I don't see why Shea couldn't.
Who would be the most recent MVP in that tier that you're considering? Would you put Russ into that category?
Yeah, for sure. Shea could like Russ. I feel like there's a bit of revisionist history of that year. Still was really pretty incredible what Russ did, but Shea definitely could have a year that level, I think. But yeah, probably not LeBron level, Steph level. I don't think he's getting there. More of like a D Rose.
D Rose.
Yeah, Russ. I think that's a fair point for him to be.
Okay, interesting. We'll move on here. One of the bigger games was the Dallas Mavericks involved with the San Antonio Spurs. This was an interesting one. Obviously, first game in the NBA in a regular season setting for Victor Wembanyama. Dallas were trailing for much of this game. There was some Luka heroics, another 30-point triple-double, just a casual 30-point triple-double for him. Wembanyama dropped 15 points, 5 rebounds, 6 of 9 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. Almost feels like even though Wembanyama was great here, I don't know how much you caught of this. It still felt like with all the hype, it was slightly underwhelming. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, a little bit of PTSD talking about this one. It didn't go great for me. I had
what about it?
I had some Spurs and some under.
I had Spurs. I had the Spurs spread. So I've actually heard a couple of people talking today that they had the Spurs in this one.
Was a tough way to end it with Luka hitting a 3 over Wemby's 9-foot arms. Yeah, I think Wemby was fine. I don't think he looked particularly great in this one. I've been looking all day. I want to see how many dribbles he had in this game. It felt like very few. I think his first 6 field goal attempts were all threes. He looked better in the preseason, but he also did play like he had that one game against Miami where the top 9 guys were out. Maybe it'll take a bit of time. I think when he's involved, like when he's in transition, it's game over. He's scoring. When he's covering someone, even a wing, they can't shoot over him. So like those are already things that most players in NBA history, you can't say it for. And this was his first game. But the half court offense is a bit weird. Like he's not very physical. He doesn't really like to go down in the post. He's got a high center of gravity, so he's not really moving guys. But he was still drawing fouls at a ridiculous rate in the preseason. But I'm not sure. I think he thinks he's a much better shooter than he is at this point. Like I think he was 29.5 in France from 3 last year. So I'm not sure if, 70% of his field goal attempts should be from 3. But when he gets, in the half court, I mean, not in the half court in transition or any advantage, he's he's pretty dominant. So he's honestly the most interesting player probably in NBA history. He's 7'4", but playing, the three. He's chucking threes. He's dribbling. So he's a pretty fascinating player. But I think he really proved a lot to me in the preseason. And yesterday, it's first game. I'm not going to read too much into it.
Looks like we have another. I know Eric here. I would imagine if the people I know were on Spurs, so was Eric. So he's feeling the pain from that blown one late. Even worse if you had like me the spread, where it's like, okay, there's at least a little bit of a cushion as well. But no, not quite
up
there.
up one with a minute left. Couldn't cover. I think my best line was 5.5. Couldn't even cover that.
Oh, you got 5. Wow, you had 5. I had 4.5, which was still actually 4.5 didn't end up being a good line. I think that one closed. I could have gone better. Regardless, lost on that one, but it was at the hands of the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, last season was a disaster for the Dallas Mavericks after the Kyrie Irving trade. How do you think this season is going to go for them, and do you think it's going to be more of the same?
Definitely the team that I've soured on the most from the start of the preseason to now, or up there, top 5, let's say. The starting lineup is bizarre. They're starting. They started Kleber last night. I guess they're probably going to start Lively. Grant Williams makes sense, and Derek Jones Jr. is starting. He's barely been an NBA player for the past 3 years. I just don't really see the path for the defense being good, and the pieces around. I think the offense can be very good, but I don't, unless they get to, 1 or 2 on offense, I just don't really see how they're going to be like a 47, 48 win team. I think with Luka and Kyrie, it's not going to be like last season. I think the offense is going to be good enough that they're going to be 40 plus wins, but for all they've done, I just don't really see a path to being a contender. I think they're probably going to be fighting for a playoff spot. So, is that going to be enough to make Luka happy? Questionable.
I think it's crazy that it's the 2023-2024 season and Josh Green still can't start for the Mavericks, especially with like that starting lineup that's out there. I don't know if they're just so afraid of the lack of size, lack of defense here that they're going to Derek Jones, which is just insane for 2023-2024 as well. But I feel like they're really, really wasting a bit of what they can get out of Green in this one. But I kind of agree with the Mavericks as a whole. It would be fortunate for them to make the playoffs, and seeing as what they kind of dumped to get into the position, that's not where they want to be. And seeing as they have arguably the best player in the league on his day, Luka Doncic, that's absolutely not where you want to be. But they got the first win of the season there. Lots to go. We'll see how that kind of shapes up for them as we continue. Defense is a problem, though. The fact that like Kleber has to be your defensive aid, like he's a fine defender. But the fact that you have to rely on him so heavily is kind of insane to me.
Yeah. Coming off a hamstring tear as well. I think it was a hamstring tear. Like, it's just, they just have so many guys who it's like, wow, this guy, you really need this guy to get this many minutes. I agree with the Josh Green take. I think Josh Green's really solid, but I think, Kyrie, Luka, and then Josh Green's he's small for his position. So
yeah,
I think maybe that's a worry, but, it's not like Derek Jones is solving their problems either. So I would definitely go Josh Green to start.
How about Derek Lively, by the way? We are kind of unsure about him, which rightfully so. But first NBA game, 16 points. I believe his best college game was a 13-point game. So has already beaten his career high for college in his first NBA game. Do you think that we could maybe find a shape into a season where he's all of a sudden getting starter minutes for this team?
Oh, I think he's definitely going to start for them. But again, the path for a rookie being a good defensive player is tough. He's super athletic, but really skinny. I think they're going to have serious offensive rebounding or defensive rebounding problems when he's on the court. What's the path for them to be good on D if they're starting a rookie center with next to Luka and Kyrie? I just don't really see it. I think he'll probably score and put up good rebounding numbers and block some shots. Luka he can really jump out of the gym. So having that as a pick and roll partner for Luka will elevate the offense. But again, if you're penciled in as a 25th defense in the league, there's only so much room for where you can go. 2 years ago, they were good defensively. So maybe I'm underselling it.
They lost so much of that identity as a defensive team, right?
And everyone's getting older. Dwight Powell is maybe not even a rotation player in the league. Kleba as well, off serious surgery. So it's just hard to see, what the path is for this team to be good defensively. And then if you don't have a path to be even in the top 19 on defense, it's tough unless they're the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, and when the West is as good as it is at this moment, like they're just not even sniffing the teams at the top. I think they'll be a playing team. I don't think they'll even be
I
a
agree.
team. Just the defense is that bad. All right, another team, really interesting one. A lot of people are high on. This will be the last kind of team we cover before going into individual players, but the Orlando Magic. A lot of people have been kind of high on them going into this season, but it's kind of like the Thunder to me, where it's like, what does being high on the Magic mean? Does that mean you think they'll make the playoffs? Does that mean you think they'll be fun to watch on League Pass? But first game of the season, they do make a statement here. Houston were an interesting team as well, but they beat the Rockets 116-86. What's your outlook for the Magic at this season?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just a really pessimistic guy because every team we're talking about, I'm pretty low on. I like Orlando. I actually think they've got a lot of pieces that I really like. Paolo's really the swing piece. Number one overall pick, good rookie year. But how many guys in the league are not good shooters, not good defenders, and stars? That's tough. So he's either going to have to swing one of those, which he maybe could be passable on defense. He has a big step up to go to get to be an efficient NBA player. So there's a lot to like. He's an incredible ball handler for his size and an awesome passer for his size. Super athletic, has gone into way better shape since college. So I do really like him, but he's a huge swing piece. And then talking about Dallas' path to a good defense, I do not see where unless they can. I think they bludgeoned Houston on the offensive boards last night. Unless they're a top 10 offensive rebounding team and a top 10 free throw shooting team, I just don't really see a path where this is anywhere close to a good offense. They have no shooting in the starting lineup. Don't really have much shooting off the bench. So I think they could be good on D. I think Wendell Carter has gone really underrated. I think he's a really solid player.
Yeah,
but if a successful season is 40 wins, yeah, they could get 40 wins. But if a successful season's, taking a jump and making the playoffs, I don't see it.
It reminds me of where the Kings were a year ago. Like, they were not expected to be a top 3 seed, but fans were pretty pumped. Like, we're going to win 40 games this year. That was a realistic piece of success for that team. So that's where they're hoping to find it. As far as defense, yeah, Banchero's problematic. Last season, me and Pez spoke tons about Wendell Carter, saying the Bulls ended up trading for Vucevic and lost probably the piece that would have been better for them in Wendell Carter in that trade.
For sure.
Jalen Suggs is a really good defender. It's turning into that. Offensively, he wasn't great yesterday again. That's still a problem, but he's turning into a very good defensive sort of player. But yeah, I mean, looking at the lineup here, it's going to be a fun play-in team. If they want to be a play-in team, if they're ready to make that step, that's, where they're going to be. But reaching the ascent, I'm very high on Franz Wagner, but like you said, the swing piece there is Banchero. That's perfect segue into the next conversation. We're talking about polarizing young stars around the league. Who's ready to make the leap? Who isn't? Banchero involved, but also the top 4 from the 2021 draft: Cunningham, Jalen Green, Mobley, and Scotty Barnes. Those are the 5 players that you specifically wanted to bring up here. You already mentioned what you wanted to say about Banchero, but Cade Cunningham, you are not a fan of the first-round pick who caused all the fuss about tanking, the fade for Cade movement of that season. You are not convinced about the player. Talk to us about Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, the thing I say about Cade is he's the best player in the league when no one's filming. He's Team USA when no one can watch. Oh, he was the best player. In practice, he's the best player. Here are some numbers for you on Cade. Last night, he put up a good stat line. He had 14 dribbles off the jumper, 10 from 2. Shot off 10 pick and rolls, 10 dribble jumpers, 0 free throws, 2 free throws in the entire preseason. 54% of his shots were dribble jumpers in the preseason, and he shot 26% on them. He's just never been – I just don't think the way he plays is what he is as a player. I don't think he's a point guard. People like comparing him to Luka. He's a great passer, but He just can't really get to the rim. He doesn't finish there that efficiently. He's had one good shooting season at Oklahoma, and like it's kind of been like banked on that. Oh, he's a great shooter because he had that one. He wasn't really considered a great shooter in high school, and he hasn't been a good shooter in the NBA. I know it's been on and off, but just at what point is this guy, future star Cade Cunningham? I think he's a good player. I think his floor is a really good wing, but I think he might be just a wing, good defender, good catch and shoot, who can play, maybe a secondary ball handler. But they're running, 30 pick and rolls for this guy a night. He has the ball every time, massive usage. He just has never proven that he can do that.
I think you're selling. I think you're selling him a little bit short. Like I wouldn't go as far as to say he's like a catch wing can distribute as well. I think this guy needs the ball in his hands consistently, and he has all these traits to be successful there. But I think in certain cases, can you use him more off ball? Like, why does every time Cade scores, it feels like he has to work incredibly hard to get that? Like, why not find ways to get like an Ivy more involved, and then can we get easier buckets for Cade? Like you're very analytically driven, so like you want at the rim, you want 3-point shooting. That's what I want in a player as well. So how can we get Cade to transform more so into that sort of player? That's how I'd be focused in the point guard position because he's so good with the ball in his hands.
But yeah, when I say secondary ball handler, like not that they're similar players, but why can't he be Jaylen Brown, in terms of usage and how he plays off the ball with a point guard versus he's just not Luka. Like this Luka comparison, as everyone kind of it's still in the ether, Cade Cunningham, Luka type. Watch Cade Cunningham and watch Luka and tell me they're anything similar. Cade cannot get to the rim. Luka could get to the rim with his eyes closed in just his left hand. He's just not Luka, and they keep trying. And again, last night it was the exact same thing. I watched all his shots this morning: dribble jumper, dribble jumper, dribble jumper. I just don't. He could be very good. I just feel like the consensus is, oh, this is a future All-Star, future All-NBA. I do not see it.
It's interesting because everybody was like falling over themselves trying to get this guy at the draft. I'll give him credit. He's only, 22 years old. Still a lot of room to grow. Like efficiency is something that typically develops as you get older. Like I remember Tatum in like second season where he was just selling for a lot of mid-range jumpers. Then as he kind of cleaned up his game, he got more focused on getting to the rim, a little bit more catch and shoot. Now he's the Tatum that he is today. Could Cade kind of follow suit a little bit? He's a different player, but yeah, it's just make the game easier for him. Stop making everything so difficult to come by. Coaching is going to be key in doing that. I thought it would be. I mean, with Dwayne Casey, it's no surprise. Like Dwayne Casey, just here, give the ball best player, and that's it. I don't have anything else for you guys. Whereas new coach, okay, can they actually work on stuff? I thought so, but maybe not so far. We spent a lot of time on Cade. Let's go to these other guys here. Jalen Green is another really strange player where the efficiency hasn't been there for him so far in his career, but he's finally on a team that seemingly has, well, at least structure in place. They did not have structure in that first game against the Magic. Udoka seems confused about who he wants to play and who is his best, like 9 or 10 guys, but Jalen Green started and he's going to continue to start. What do you think next steps are for Jalen Green?
Yeah, Jalen Green, I feel like he's kind of like Zach LaVine mold, and hopefully can get to that point. But again, another guy. It's his third year. He's never been good in the NBA. He's another guy. It's like clock's ticking. You got to kind of take a jump right now, or you start falling behind that age curve. He really struggled last night. I haven't gotten the chance to really look yet at what he did. I saw he wasn't very good, and I think he put up a cryptic Instagram story today. I think I saw that on Twitter. So, he's got a lot of talent. He still struggles at the rim. He still doesn't see any passing. So he's a guy who, consensus is pretty low on or is lowering. So I'm not going to say I've got any hot takes. I could see it going either way with that.
Yeah, he could just turn into like maybe even like a microwave scorer off the bench. Like a better version of Cam Thomas? Is that like his floor? Where
yeah, I would hope that's his floor at least, not ceiling.
Yeah, ceiling wise, again, it's just a case of can the young player understand that the most efficient shots are at the rim and from three? Can you fight to the rim a bit more? Can you become a better passer and not get tunnel vision? Because yesterday he was 2 of 10 with 4 turnovers, no assists. And let me see, his assist to turn ratio actually hasn't been as bad as I thought it's been. But yeah, just can that
It's
part of
not
his
good.
game start to develop? No, it's not good, but I thought it was worse than it actually is. Another guy, Evan Mobley. Everyone's very high on this guy. Personally, I don't know if it's just my Toronto vendetta against Mobley because it was like Barnes versus Mobley for the rookie of the year. I'm not quite as high on Mobley as other people have been. I'm not ready to say we're he needs to be DPOY in these DPOY conversations, but I'll take the lead on this one. The biggest swing for Mobley and for if Cleveland are going to be a good team is Mobley can be able to hit threes. Because if Mobley's hitting threes, that team can win a championship with its core, given a bit more time, given a bit more pieces. Like that is a team capable of doing that. But are we going to get to a point where Jared Allen and Evan Mobley can no longer exist on the same floor?
Yeah, yeah. If you're selling Evan Mobley stock, I'll buy it all up. Give me all the Evan Mobley
Oh,
stock
really?
there is.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing about Evan Mobley, in my view. He's already, a top tier defender. I think he was on, top 3, top 5 depot last year. I didn't think it was crazy. He took a big jump scoring wise last year in terms of efficiency. And typically, guys, the two body types I would compare Mobley to would be like Davis or Jaren. And those guys come into the league, they're skinny, they start filling out. He's got a lot of on ball talent. He sees the floor well, he can dribble. If he could be physical enough to get to the rim and score that way, that's a huge leap for Evan Mobley. And then, like you said, if he can shoot threes, which he said he was going to shoot a lot, and then I think I looked 0 for 0 last night. But if he could shoot threes, again, that's another step. So he's got such a good base of this guy's already such a good NBA player with, the still having that ceiling. So give me all the Evan Mobley stock. And he's been playing out of position. He's playing the 4 when he's really a 5. If he was a 5, he's probably averaging more points and he's probably even more efficient. So give me all the Evan Mobley stock. I think he is a tier above these 4 guys we're talking about here from that draft.
So you think Jared Allen, the Cavs should consider finding a new home for him and just giving Mobley more range as the 5?
Yeah, the Cavs are in a bit of a tough spot. I like Jared Allen, and I think it would be really hard for them to get fair value for him back. I think just generally, if you're trying to trade a good player for other good players, you're probably going to lose out on that trade. It depends on what they want. A lot of noise that Mitchell's going to walk. So if Mitchell's going to walk, then probably just keep Jared Allen and try being as good as you can be. And maybe, you can sneak to an NBA finals if the Bucks get hurt and maybe the Celtics fall apart again. I definitely don't see that happening.
Yeah.
But if Mitchell's going to stay, then yeah, I think you got to start thinking of Mobley at center and trying to get some wings that really fit next to him.
Mitchell's kind of holding this team a bit ransom in that way, where they don't want to fully commit and then have Mitchell leave. But if they actually want to challenge for championship, they obviously have to commit just a little bit more to this team. But they traded away a lot to get Mitchell to begin with. That's the tough spot. So last player we'll talk on, then we'll talk about any bets. Scotty Barnes. We're Raptors fans here. So Scotty Barnes, for me, shooting is obviously part of it, but I think aggression as well is part of it. We saw it yesterday against the Timberwolves. It's kind of the same thing as last year where, yeah, he's getting to the rim. He's being aggressive with the ball, but then he gets to the rim and he forgets that he's 6'9" with a 7'4" wingspan, and he tries to go around contact. And what's been probably his entire life, his ability to score is just get to the rim. Okay, I'll figure it out there. Now he's actually going to be aggressive and take it strong to the rack, which that is the separation for me. What are your thoughts on Scotty Barnes?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's got a wide range of outcomes. I think talking about bad situation, I think this is about as bad of a situation as he could possibly be in, just surrounded by no shooting. I think his number one comparable player in the NBA in terms of upside wise is Pascal Siakam. I think they play pretty similar. They kind of a similar way about them. They've got a bit of shake. They like to get to the rim, but they like to get there a bit slowly. Scotty's a bit bigger, a bit stronger. I agree with you. He needs to use his body better, and he needs to be away. I don't know what happened last year. It might have been a nurse thing, but his on-ball defense was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Felt like he got blown by every time.
I think it was conditioning. That's what I think.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like he's taking it more seriously. I was definitely much lower on him going into last season, but he had a good preseason. I think he's a really interesting player. I don't think the shot's ever going to be, good, but could it be okay? That would really help. And yeah, he's a guy who's going to need to get to the rim, dominate at the rim, be a really good passer, and be a really good defender. He needs to be a really good defender for him to hit, his high level outcomes.
So you kind of compare him to Siakam. I have slowly started to feel like Barnes's best role might actually turn into like a more athletic Sabonis, where he's the dribble handoff guy, the screen setter, the roller, the passing out of the high post. That I think is a really interesting way Scotty Barnes could be developed in the future. Not sure that's ever going to happen because he wants the ball in his hands. He wants to kind of run the offense. But how do you feel about that comparison?
It's interesting. I don't think he's being used that way much. So I think I would need to see it.
Right.
He definitely has the vision, and he can get to spots on the court really well. I think he's much more athletic than Sabonis, like you said. I would say, is he good enough defensively? But is Sabonis good enough defensively? Probably not. I don't know if Scotty can hang at center. I think that Sabonis is an elite defensive rebounder. I don't know if Scotty is.
I kind of meant offensively, defensively against other centers, not going to happen. But offensively, that sort of role.
Yeah, I think it's hard to see because Sabonis is surrounded by shooting and offensive talent, and Barnes is the opposite of that. So, it's an interesting thought, and I think they showed around him at center some, and I think they were in the preseason a bit. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, they weren't shy of small ball yesterday, so I'm sure more small ball is to come this season. But those are all the players we have. But question here from Jay Cullen, better DPOY candidate for this year, Mobley or Bam? Who I think Bam was higher on the odds, but who do you have?
Give me Mobley all day.
Mobley?
Bam's pretty overrated defender in the regular season in my books. I think he was like the worst defensive rim protecting center in the league last year. Not that they play an aggressive style. That stat's a bit noisy, but I think Bam really is an elite switch defender, which is more important for the playoffs. I think the Cavs, I have as the number one defense in my projections when Allen's healthy. Wow. So the problem with Mobley, the hard part of the path is that he's with Allen, and it's like the MVP. It's hard to win MVP if you have two guys who are kind of sharing that load. I think it's a bit similar with Mobley, but there's not really a clear defensive player of the year candidate right now. So I actually like that Mobley bet, and I would never bet Bam to win Depot. These words could come back to haunt me, but don't waste your money on that.
All right, so we'll wrap up here with some betting. Any betting insight, any betting picks you want to discuss before we head out?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of props for tonight if we want to do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm playing LeBron under blocks again. I think I moved to -127 where I saw it. Definitely like it. I played it's similar logic, but now that minutes limit has been confirmed, I don't think he's seeing over 30 minutes.
-125 at 365 right now. That's
beautiful.
Yeah.
Love that. Malik Beasley, I played over 9.5 points. It's been steaming up a bit. I think I got it at -103. Any -108, -109 is good there. I said Tyrese Maxey under steals, and then PJ Tucker under 4.5 points. If you can get, I think I played at -115.
Let's see. PJ Tucker under 4.5 points, -105 right now at DraftKings, MGM, beautiful. And Canby Books, so Barstool, Bet Rivers, etc. Yeah.
And then I think I played, so I'm just checking it here, under half a three +143 I played as well.
For PJ?
For PJ, yeah.
Okay, so that for 3-pointers, you can get 155 at 365 for that number.
Beautiful.
So,
You know, what a world where you can bet at 365 in DraftKings.
you're well, you have the you're legally allowed to, but they don't let you bet there. Is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. They don't welcome my action too
365, I'm
fondly.
safe. DraftKings is for player props. They'll let me have maybe a little piece of it.
A little taste.
Yeah, they give me that. For some reason, though, on DraftKings, actually, no, I'm not going to say what I was about to say. Okay, never mind.
Keep it bottled down.
Yeah, so those are the bets that Evan Kirk has in place for the slate of games tonight. Some interesting stuff and some interesting conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed what we had for you today. We're going to be back here every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time for more just like this. I think we'll save a bit more time next time for more of the betting discussion, but a bit of a loaded one as we're going into a brand new NBA season. But the weekly shows or the weekday shows every morning are still going to be live with myself and Pips on this channel. So subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're on the board right now as we have a great NBA season ahead for you guys. Drop a like if you did enjoy this one. And in future, any questions you have leading into the show, you can let us know on Twitter and we can bring it up for these conversation pieces just like this. But a little bit of a new look to the channel. I'm excited to be a part of this. Any final words from yourself? How you felt about the first show that we did and maybe future shows, what you want to get involved with?
For sure. Yeah, no, I'm just having a good time. I like talking basketball. It's been fun. Hopefully we can keep having a good season. Yesterday was a little rough for me, but yeah, we'll keep it going.
First day of the picks, you were 2-0 first day, and I think yesterday was 0.
I was 0-2. Oh my god, I had 7 points of close on Jazz Sacramento.
Yeah,
and
you gave it out and got 4 points of close on the one you gave out as well.
Yeah. I played it personally. Started at 241, but then I gave it out 238, closed 234. You know, a million points. So
yeah,
sometimes that's gonna happen.
It happens, but you trust the process, trust the number. As always, that's what we'll do on the show. Thank you, everybody, again for watching. Evan will be back next week. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Keep it locked on the channel.